of the lands and pay my their elders, past, present. So tonight we've got Emily from the Whitsundays who'll be presenting a talk about the mangroves that are in that region and a couple of other really awesome topics. But before we get right into her talk, I'll just do a bit of an introduction about Reef Check Australia and the work we do, and also some of our upcoming events. So for anyone that doesn't know, Reef Check Australia is a citizen science, not-for-profit organisation, and a lot of the work we do is aimed at empowering people through education, through science, to better understand the marine environments around them, and to help conserve and protect them. So we do this through a lot of engagement, outreach and education activities, but we also have an incredible citizen science project, which collects a lot of long-term data on many reefs. This is globally, but of course, those of us here today are probably most likely working in Australia and particularly in Queensland. So just before we invite Emily to talk, just some housekeeping. Could you please keep your video off and your mute? Feel free to ask questions through the chat, and at the end of tonight's talk, we'll also have a lot of time to have a really great chat with Emily and ask any questions that we might have, but we just ask that you keep that till the end of the talk. We've also popped our SQ surveys email there if you have any questions at all about tonight's event, any follow-up questions, or if you have questions about Reef Check and getting involved, please feel free to do that if you don't get a chance to do that tonight. So some of our upcoming events, we've got so there's a really cool party happening at the Secret Garden in Noosa, and that's on Saturday, the 12th of November, starting at 2 p.m. And so they've chosen us as their charity of choice. So what that means is that a lot of the funds that they'll be making through drinks and such on the night will go towards the work that we do at Reef Check Australia. So if you are in the Noosa region and you don't have much on Saturday, it's definitely one to head to. We've also got another Paddle for the Planet. So after our first one that was held a couple of weeks ago, which was a great success, we've decided to hold a second one, and that'll be on December 10th from 2 to 5 p.m. at Cotton Tree on the Sunshine Coast. So there will be some SUPs for hire on the day, but if you do have your own, it'd be really great if you could come down and use them on the day. So that'll include a beach cleanup, some fun in the water, and just a really great opportunity to meet a lot of like-minded people and do some good as well. And Jodie's email is there at the bottom of the image if you have any questions about that event at all. It's also on most of our socials like Facebook, so you can also add it to your events list. And of course, we've got our regular Sundays with your mates. So the next one that's upcoming for this month is on the 20th of November. And they do a lot of great work for Reef Check, raising money through raffles and things like that. So again, if you are in the Sunshine Coast region, you can head to one of those events.
I got a thumbs up. Alrighty, guys. So yes, my name is Emily Monticello. I did move from very sunny and warm Victoria 2 years ago up into the Whitsundays here. And since I've been here, I've done a lot of qualifications like the Master Reef Guide and Savannah Guides. And I've just gained this massive love for mangroves. I think they're really underrated. So hopefully you guys will learn a few things today from me. So the hidden gem of Australian coastline. Walking through a mangrove can be like going on a giant treasure hunt. Hidden within the twisted vines, branches, and root systems are some pretty amazing reptiles, some wild-looking insects, and plenty of crabs and animals which call the mangroves their home. So what is a mangrove? Mangroves are where the sea meets the land. It's the first point of contact and potentially one of the most important ecosystems in the world. Mangroves are a community of unrelated plants living in the intertidal zone running parallel to the shoreline or the tidal creek. They live in harsh environments. However, they have adapted to live in salt water and mud saturated with hydrogen sulfide. So if you guys that produces that rotten egg smell that you might smell while you're there. In Australia, mangroves show exceptional biodiversity. Worldwide, there's 70 species of mangroves. And in Queensland, we are lucky enough to have approximately 39 mangroves. Several of them are hybrid and only 9 of them are found in Queensland, nowhere else in Australia, which is pretty cool. Australia has the 3rd largest area of mangroves in the world. That's after Indonesia and Brazil. It totals around 11,500 kilometres square, and it represents approximately 6.4 of the world's mangrove area just here in Australia. But isn't it just smelly, muddy, and mosquito-ridden? I know every time I go there, I get bitten by mosquitoes, but they do have an importance, I assure you. So while it's often left off the bucket list of places to explore, there's no shortage of hidden wonders within the mangrove ecosystem. Some of them include, they're a critical nursery and feeding ground for many animals. They're a coastal stabilizer. They're nutrient cycling sediment traps. They filter runoff from the land. They anchor shorelines while buffering coastal ecosystems against hurricanes and tsunamis. They protect coral reefs from sedimentation. They isolate massive amounts of carbon to combat climate change, and they can adapt to sea level rise, which is pretty important right now. So it's been estimated that around 75% of the fish here in the Great Barrier Reef rely on mangroves for protection or a food source as part of their life. 75%, that's a lot. Nothing gets wasted in the mangrove forest. Mangroves drop many nutrient-rich and salty leaves, and over time, they're either eaten by crabs, they're broken down by fungi or bacteria, or they float into the marine and estuarine habitats, which are eaten by fish or washed up onto the beach. Here are a few examples of some of the animals. So at the top, we have the fiddler crab. The fiddler crab has that big claw that's made for scaring off other predators and also to quickly grab their leaf and down into their burrow at high tide. Many sharks love the mangroves. So as they're juvenile, especially reef sharks and lemon sharks as well. We have the Teresian imperial pigeon. Very, very cool bird that comes here and hides in the mangroves for their breeding as well. We have barramundis. We have a tiny little crocodile. I'm very scared of crocodiles, so I can only put a baby one on there, otherwise I won't be able to look at it. And then we have pistol shrimps as well. That's just a few examples. There are many, many more. But this one's pretty cool. So we might have all seen a batfish down on the reef before. But when they're born and when they're babies, they actually resemble a leaf, an orange mangrove leaf. Sometimes they can swim up the top of the surface and resemble that leaf, or almost a flatworm. That avoids getting eaten in its very vulnerable start of its life. Once it gets bigger, it then moves on to the reef. So what eats what? It is a big circle. So mangrove leaves, oh, my power's just turned back on. Mangrove leaves and the algae that grow on mangrove roots capture sunlight through photosynthesis and deposit it into the leaves, trunks, and branches. That's what's called primary production. Mangrove leaves are salty and tough, and only very few things actually eat them. But some crabs have developed a taste for them. The crabs are called primary consumers. Once they have eaten the leaf, they will come and deposit its waste onto the mangrove floor, allowing other crustaceans and mollusks to eat that. The unlucky crabs, however, are eaten by herons and other birds, and these birds are now called secondary consumers, which eat the primary consumers. As the reef fish and prawns feed on little crustaceans, mollusks, and smaller reef fish, they get too large for the narrow spaces between the roots. So that's when they head into the open ocean. There they may get eaten by some bigger fish, such as barramundi or sharks, that feed in the channels and lagoons. These fish are now secondary consumers as well. Once in the open ocean, that is where we catch them and feed our families. So it all links back to those mangroves dropping its leaves to make that cycle begin. Some wetlands, like saltwater ponds, are even saltier than the ocean. So what do they do with all that salt? There are a couple of ways that they deposit their salt. Some species can stop much of the salt from entering the system by filtering it out at root level. Some species can exclude more than 90% of salt in the seawater just through their roots. Some species quickly excrete salt, which have entered into the system. The leaves of many mangroves have special salt glands, which are among the most active salt-secreting system known. Other mangrove species can concentrate it to the bark in older leaves, which carry it with them when they drop onto the ground. Due to limited availability of fresh water, some mangroves plants can conserve the amount of water that they lose through their leaves. They can restrict the opening of their stomata, and these have the ability to tilt their leaves to reduce transpiration. Their roots are the most distinguishing feature of a mangrove tree. That helps them collect oxygen. Due to its soft and wet soil in mangroves, there are not many places where the roots can attach and stay upright. Therefore, they have developed prop roots that help distribute the weight of the trunk over a broader area. These are called buttress root systems. Mangroves are extremely low in oxygen. That is what creates the often black and smelly surface. Oxygen spreads much slower through water than through air. This impacts the decomposition of plant materials. To compensate for that lack of oxygen, wetland plants often have roots that grow above the sediment out into the air. These are called aerial roots or breathing roots, but they're also called nematophores. The future of mangroves around Australia very much depends on us. However, in fact, it is actually our future that is codependent on the survival of these critical habitats. For far too long, people did not realise the importance of mangroves. Therefore, they dug them up, they removed them, filled them, and a lot of inappropriate actions were happening in mangroves. Oil spills can suffocate the trees and their important oxygen obtaining nematophore roots, making it impossible to gain oxygen needing to survive. As I mentioned, it is the first place where the trees meet the land. Its complex root system is a hotspot for marine debris to get stuck, and over time, it will break up into smaller pieces. Thankfully today, all the parts of mangroves, the stumps, seeds, and leaves are protected in Queensland under the Queensland Fisheries Act, and any activities that involves mangroves require a permit from the Queensland Department of Primary Industry. So what can you do to help? There's many things we can do, but some include you can remove any invasive weeds, you can fence along the intertidal zone to prevent the livestock from accessing, you can undertake rehabilitation projects to restore habitats, you can avoid driving, walking or biking through salt marsh and mangrove areas, and please just dispose of your rubbish correctly, that's all I ask. With over 74 islands, a long tradition of Indigenous culture, a unique geological history, and an ecosystem with thousands of animals and coral reefs, these sometimes smelly and mosquito-ridden mangroves are quite often avoided. We are lucky enough to have around 13 mangrove species surrounding Airlie Beach in the Whitsunday Islands. However, not everyone is aware of the benefits of mangroves. Therefore, between the years of 1953 and 1999, about 6% of the mangroves were cleared. In Queensland, to this day, much of the land is being replaced for residential housing, marinas, resorts, and industrial ports. That all impacts this ecosystem directly. If you were to scoop up just 1 teaspoon of North Queensland mangrove forest and look at it under a very strong microscope, you'll find it contains more than 10 billion bacteria. That's amongst the highest found in marine mud anywhere in the world. Unfortunately, these areas are still not studied as regularly as coral reefs. Therefore, many animals and plants are still unknown. It may only be 10 centimetres long and weigh less than a chocolate bar, but this little rodent is one of the rarest treasures in the mangrove system. The water mouse, also known as the mangrove mouse, it was previously known as the false water rat, is a nocturnal, non-marsupial, terrestrial carnivore that inhabits coastal salt marshes, mangroves, marine and estuarine environments. The species was first described from a single specimen collected in Mackay in 1889. Very few details were known about this mouse, so it wasn't found again until 1944, once again in Mackay. Following on in Proserpine in 1982, and across the Whitsunday to Mackay region in 1999. Since then, it has been recorded in the Northern Territory, in Queensland, New Guinea, and recently in the last few years, it's been discovered in Cairns. This tiny little mouse is almost entirely dependent on mangrove habitats for their food, breeding, protection, and because of that, they are an incredible indicator of wetland health. Due to the popular trend of habitat removal in mangroves and wetlands, the primary threat to this water mouse is the loss and degradation of their habitat. Studies are still getting conducted and they are now listed as vulnerable in Queensland. So if we lose any more mangroves, wetlands, coastal salt marshes, we will lose these adorable little mice. So as I mentioned previously, the mangrove is the first place where sea meets the land. Therefore, it's extremely common to see fishing line, hard plastic, rope, and soft plastic stuck within these incredible root systems. We are quite lucky throughout the Whitsundays. Comparing it to other parts of the Great Barrier Reef, we do have quite low marine debris found. But that doesn't mean our beaches and mangroves are pristine either. I try and clean our local beaches and near mangroves 2 to 3 times a week. And my most shocking discoveries are noticing the amount of bottle lids we have washed up. Not so much bottles, just the lids. I conducted a lot of beach cleanups when I was living in Southwest Victoria, and we noticed many bottle lids, but one in particular, AQUA. We found so many that we started to do research and see where they were sold. To our surprise, it's only sold in Indonesia. So how were these washing up to the beaches at the bottom of Australia? Since those discoveries, more and more research is being conducted to find out, is it natural currents making its way down? Is it from fishing boats? Or is it those big cargo ships that pass by every single day? That's a mystery that still continues. But this bottle lid here was founded in 1973, and it is the most common water in Indonesia. If you go anywhere in Indonesia, you'll probably find this water. But it turns out we aren't alone in finding these lids. People from all across the world have been finding them. So this is just from my research alone and asking around. You can see all the little numbers. That's roughly how many places in that small area where the bottle lids have been found. But I know for fact they have been found literally everywhere around Australia. It's insane. I can't believe how many are washing up. But then what about if we just look in the Whitsundays? Nearly everywhere has found these lids. So this in the Whitsundays, that's from my own personal findings, but I also teamed up with EcoBarge to get the findings from them as well. So if you're near any mangroves or beaches, keep an eye out for any of these nasty lids. When you find them, you can either upload them to the findings onto Australian Marine Debris Initiative for Tangaroa Blue, or you can just message them to me directly. And make sure you put in there the condition of the lid, because then I can try and work out, is it from the boats passing through, or is it from just washed in off those currents? But I think it's quite amazing that we can find it top, bottom, side, Tasmania, everywhere around Australia. So what I want you all to remember is that mangroves are one of the most incredible, mysterious, prettiest, and of course, the most important ecosystem in the whole world. So please treasure it, respect it, research it, and enjoy it. Because without it, our coral reefs, coastlines, wetlands, and overall country will be impacted. So I want you to imagine the Great Barrier Reef with 75% less fish. That's what would happen if we lost our mangroves. Thank you for joining and listening and watching. Does anyone have any questions? I hope you enjoyed it. Yay.
Thanks, Emily. That was awesome. You had nothing to be worried about.
Yay! Apart from my power going out 2 seconds before we started, yes. I've been running around the house. No.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
Oh, did your power go out too?
Yeah.
Oh, so weird.
Okay.
Should I stop sharing? Should I?
Yeah, if you want. So if anyone does have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, or there's not many of us, so you can turn on your mics.
I'm just wondering, Emily, do you have any theories? Like, you're getting all the bottle lids washing up. Do you have any theories as to why there's no bottles? Do you think they're just sinking? Or are they perhaps keeping the bottles?
Yeah, well, it's so crazy once you start to think about where it is all going. So I know up in Weipa and in Arnhem Land up there, they are definitely finding bottles with lids on, without lids, but definitely finding the bottles.
Okay.
In both the Whitsundays and in Warrnambool, I've never found a bottle. So I don't know if it sinks by the time, or it's a different current that takes them different ways. But yeah, that's my next mission, is to try and work out where the bottles stop showing up, because it's such a mystery. It's very cool though.
Yeah, I had thought if they were Australian, it's because people are cashing in the bottles but chucking away the lids, but it's Indonesia. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too, because I can't believe how many we find around here. And my first thought was it's for cash for change, whatever it's called, cans for change, where they have to get rid of the bottle lids. But, 9 times out of 10, it's probably a foreign lid that's been washing up onto our beaches here.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Very.
So how often are you doing the cleanups and surveys?
Well, I try and get onto the beach 2 to 3 times a week.
Wow.
And then from there, yeah, I know it's a mission, but I'm quite addicted. And from then it's all my own personal research. It was never really, I never asked other people about it, because I thought, it's just a common lid that we find everywhere. Until I started to ask people, and I realized that everywhere finds it. So yeah, once I do the cleanup, I'll sort it, and then I just do my own research, and I have this big Excel document where I can put where it's from and whatnot. So hopefully one day the data will go somewhere, but for now I'm just sort of asking everyone around. But I asked someone up in the Northern Territory, and he goes, how many bags do you want of the lids? Like, he says they find thousands every cleanup. And I'm like, I don't want any. I've got hundreds in my garage just there. I don't need any more lids. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully we have a result soon for any of the lids and how they get here.
Yeah, it's super. So if there's anyone that's doing similar things, like, walking along their local beach and collecting rubbish, I know there's like groups like Tangaroa Blue and stuff. are there like online repositories where you can put in that data? Like, I collected bottles.
There's a few Facebook pages. So when I was in Warrnambool, I was a part of a beach patrol group, and that just all started because someone had an interest in plastic pollution and wanted to put her findings on there, and that's pretty much where my plastic pollution love started. Up here, there's not too much. There's a few Facebook pages. I've actually just started the Facebook page with one of my friends. It's called Whitsunday Active Volunteers for the Environment, which you can also jump on, and that's where we post some of our cleanups as well. But that's just getting started. So hopefully more and more people post their cleanups, because it's also really interesting to see the trend of one beach gets loads of rubbish one week and nothing the next.
Yeah,
very interesting. But I know down here people clean our beaches a lot. There's at Conway Beach, there's a few bins that have been put there just by a guy who lives near there, and they're always filled with plastic. So people are doing stuff, definitely.
So we do have a question from Karen. Are the bottles breaking up because they are softer plastic? Could that be one of the reasons you're not?
I assume so, and I also think they could probably sink a lot easier than a very buoyant bottle lid as well. But the mystery of the ocean, we can't give a certain answer for that one, unfortunately.
Well, there is a lot of like plastic research going on at the moment with dissect fish and things like that, and they're finding a lot of really, really tiny broken up pieces. So Ali said there's a beach patrol uses the litter stopper app. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's a really good app. There's a few apps actually, but Litter Stopper is really good. It's pretty much like Tangaroa Blue, but you can see other people's data as well. So it's very cool.
And then how it goes after it's like, does it go somewhere that's accessible?
Yeah, with the Litter Stopper app, I'm not entirely sure where it goes. But I know because Beach Patrol uses it, so I know they put it on both the Litter Stopper app and Tangaroa Blue. So you just have to double enter it. Yeah.
And Ali also asked whether you find many bottles when you're diving.
I have found a few. There was one bay where I found about 30 and nothing since then once we picked them up. So that was a really big mystery. But no, not really. We find more of like fishing line and rope and lures. Mainly it all just gets washed on and stopped on the islands before it sinks around here, I think.
Yeah. We do tend to find some bottles when we're doing like reef check cleanups and surveys in Southeast Queensland, but I actually would say it's probably mainly like glass bottles, and especially closer to the coastline, like you're on the sunny coast or near Brisbane. And I reckon that maybe plastic bottles are just degrading a lot faster, maybe.
Yeah, it's annoying. We can't even put a little tag on it to record it. Like you just have to ask people, and hopefully, in the future we can start up a group for just, where are you finding these AQUA lids? Is it a bottle? Just to try and get a bit of an answer, because it's such a mystery. It's very interesting. And we find like every cleanup here, you'll find 30 to 40 lids and maybe one plastic bottle. It's so bizarre. So bizarre.
Does anyone else have any questions?
They're all speechless. Oh no, here they come.
Can you recycle bottles that have washed up?
I try to take them to Cans for Change. I need to work out what that name is. Containers for Change, that's it. I try and take them there. They haven't turned around any of mine. It sort of just depends how old they are. But I'm sure you can chuck them back in the recycling, but I just try and take all of my bottles to Containers for Change and hope they give me 10 cents, which is probably horrible.
Oh, and Karen's got another question. Are the aqua bottles easily identifiable, like shape-wise, for example?
That's a fantastic question. I don't know. I'm pretty sure from what I've seen pictures of, it's just a bottle. It's a straight bottle. I know it's not like the Coke ones that come out. I do know it's just a straight bottle, but I'm not sure if there's any markings. I doubt there is because they're not getting ID'd without the lid or anything.
Yeah. What's the most interesting bottle cap you've found?
Oh, I found, you know, those tubes of Smarties. So back in the day, there was a different sort of lid, and they all had an alphabetical letter on it. And I found one on one of the islands the other day, and it was letter I. And it took me ages to research it because it's just the one letter. And it turns out it's been in the water since about the 80s. Well, it got discontinued in the 80s. And I found it on one of the islands. So it's like an interesting find, but it's a disgusting find. And it was in great condition. And apparently in the UK, I'm talking to some people there, and they find those lids all the time. And it was one of those things where it was just for a certain amount of time, and then it would stop. So they went through the alphabet in capital letters, and then they went through the alphabet in lower letters, and that was it. And I found one here, and everyone's finding them in the UK. So I know. I know.
And Dan's got another question. Have you found anything dangerous?
Yes, actually. So Tangaroa Blue put up a post a couple months ago now, explaining a bit about the canisters, the silver canisters, and they contain something that I probably should know the name of now, but like a pesticide, which are carried on the cargo ships for their grain and to get rid of mice and whatnot. And they put that post up. I scanned through it, read a little bit, and I went, oh yeah, that's pretty interesting. And I'm a sort of person at a beach cleanup, I'll pick up anything. If I'm like, what is this thing? Oh, it's probably very bad. But I mean, I pick up everything. And I went to the beach that afternoon, walked down the beach, and there was a silver canister there, which was exact same one that Tangaroa Blue posted. So with those ones, you need to call the fire brigade. They come in their full hazmat suit, like, oh, it's insane. They're like, don't touch it. Don't even go near it. And because I walked past it, I was in my head thinking, oh my God, I think I've sniffed it in. I've got a headache now. But yeah, that was pretty cool. I called the fireys. They came and got it. They knew what it was straight away. So I just said, there's a silver canister on the beach. And they're like, okay, what does it look like? Have you touched it? Is the lid still on? We're coming now. Just leave it. So that was a pretty, I thought it was such a coincidence that Tangaroa Blue literally just did the post, and I went and found it like a day or two later, and I'd never seen it before, and I haven't seen it since. Wow. But apparently there was a big spill of that in 2012, a few of them, and they just found one a week before Tangaroa Blue did that post on one of the islands, and then I found another one. So I think they're recording where they found them as well, which is cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions? Have you made anything with your rubbish?
From money.
Yes. All those 10 cents I have. Yes, I try to be a little bit creative. I also don't like chucking out my rubbish, which is probably a very bad habit that I've got. So my poor partner has to put up with plastic literally all over the house. But it's all organized just everywhere. So when I was in Warrnambool, I made some signs up that were just an arrow that pointed to one of our most polluted beaches there in Warrnambool. So they're still up today, which is really, really cool. And I've got some ideas in my head of some artwork I want to do around here. Just need to get approval from council and just use it as a way to raise awareness to people that, you know, even though we're in the Whitsundays and Whitehaven, there's still rubbish out there, and just to become aware of what's surrounding us as well. But there is hopefully some stuff coming.
I've seen some really creative stuff.
I know, and that's what slows me down because I see stuff and I'm like, oh my God, that's incredible. How would I ever make that? Mine might be a little bit less creative, but still cool.
Karen's come in with another question. Do you think land developers are now understanding the importance of maintaining mangroves and wetlands?
I would like to hope, but I think there still needs to be a lot more talk about how important they are. For example, there is a new harbour that's going to be happening around the Whitsundays here down in Shute Harbour very soon. And Shute Harbour is surrounded by mangroves, and they are definitely going to dredge them all out so those cruise ships can go on through. So, I mean, there always needs to be more conversations about the environment and mangroves and whatnot. So I think it's a start. I think they are more aware, especially because they block off, you know, when the plovers are breeding and whatnot, they block off the areas to stop people from walking there. But I think mangroves are still just treated as trees at the moment, personally.
Yeah, still very valued.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
The suspense.
Looks like everyone's
Either asleep or full of knowledge.
reach out. What's the best way? Someone just asking me meet crocodile Sunday.
Hopefully not when I'm around. But yes, if you go to the Proserpine River, there's one of the biggest concentrations of nesting crocodiles on the east coast of Australia, just in Proserpine River. Out of the islands, not so much. There has been a few spotted over the time, but they're mainly just lost and scared and want to get away from all the boats.
Yeah.
So if you want to see crocodiles, go to the Proserpine River, but I won't be going with unless they're babies.
Awesome. So if anyone,
Awesome.
Everyone's thanking you for your awesome talk. If anyone does want to reach out, either, you know, follow you or get involved in the work you do, where's the best place to get in touch?
You can add me straight on Facebook and message me through there. You can email me, which is emily.monticello@gmail.com. They're probably the best, but I'm always down to see what people find if they clean beaches as well and give advice and whatnot.
Yeah, awesome.
Yay.
Cool. So to anyone that is still with us, this talk has been recorded and will be on YouTube. So if you do want to go back and rewatch anything, or if any of your family and friends might enjoy the talk, you can also share it with them. It might be a couple of days before it's up on the channel on YouTube, but it will be up there at some point. But with that, I'd just like to thank Emily for that awesome talk. And I hope everyone has a really good Christmas and holiday break before we restart the series in February.
Woohoo!
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Thanks.
Bye.